Welcome to the Kingdom of Bhutan. Bhutan is a small country that is sandwiched by two big countries, which is China and India. Bhutan's capital, Thimphu. Bhutan's flag is composed of two different colors, which is yellow and orange, and the dragon in the middle. The yellow signifies civil tradition and temporal authority as embodied in the Druk Gyalpo, which is the dragon king of Bhutan, whose royal grab traditionally includes a yellow kabni scarf. Orange half signifies Buddhist spiritual tradition. The dragon in the middle is called the Druk or the Thunder Dragon. It is a Tibetan and Bhutanese mythology and the Bhutanese national symbol. A Druk appears on the flag of Bhutan holding jewels to represent wealth. In Dzongkha, Bhutan is called Druk Yul or Land of Druk, or simply means Land of the Dragons. The traditional name of the country since 17th century has been Drukyul, or Land of the Dracopa, or it is called Dragon People, because in Bhutan, they believe that dragon is their protector. The Bhutan name is derived from the Sanskrit Bhutan, meaning the end of Tibet, because Bhutan is located at the lower part of Tibet, China. British exerted some controls over Bhutan affairs, but they never colonized it. Facts about Bhutan. Bhutan is closed for tourism until 1974 because they believe that when the tourist comes to their country, it might bring some cross-culturalizations in their country. Because Bhutan is very culture-oriented country, they value their culture so much. TV and internet is banned in Bhutan until 1999 because as I said, they believe that when their people know the outside culture of the other country, they will compare and contrast their culture and tend to try new things against their culture. In Bhutan, there's no homeless people. If you got homeless, you'll go to the king and the king will give you a piece of land on the mountain and the king will give you a piece of root crops to make fund of your living. Next is in Bhutan, you got free healthcare. And tourism is included in the free healthcare that is offered by the government. In 1999, the King of Bhutan finally allowed television and internet access into the country. Bhutan was among the last countries in the world to adopt television. A few television channels are received from neighboring India. The king warned the misuse of television could corrupt their old traditions. Next, Bhutan is the only country in the world to officially measure national happiness. The index is known as GNH or Gross National Happiness. They replace their GDP to GNH because they value more the happiness of their people than the gross domestic product of their country. Bhutan has a national dress code. In Bhutan, when you go outside, you don't wear the casual clothing. You wear their national dress, which is the kira and go. Next is in 2010, Bhutan became the first country in the world to ban the production of sales of tobacco products. Smoking in public areas is illegal. However, tobacco can be used in private. Violators are slapped with a harsh fine, the equivalent of over 2 months' salary. When you go to Bhutan and you want to bring tobacco products, you will pay a high tax. Next is, Bhutan is a carbon negative country. According to the law, at least 60% of the country's total area must be covered with woods. As of 2019, the number is about 71%, so they're just doing fine. Next is, Paro International Airport is considered as the most dangerous airport in the world because their airport is located at the valley. It needs so much maneuvering that only 15 pilots are allowed to fly in Bhutan. Lastly, I just want to add up that Bhutan is the only country that has no traffic lights in the city. The language used in Bhutan is Dzongkha. It is a Sino-Tibetan language spoken by over 500,000 people in Bhutan. The Tibetan alphabet is used to write Dzongkha. Bhutan people are called Bhutanese. Bhutanese women consist 49.5% of the country's total population and play a major role in the development of the country. Bhutanese women do not face any institutionalized forms of discrimination in terms in politically, socially, economically, or legally. Government of Bhutan. Government of Bhutan is constitutional monarchy since July 18, 2008. They have king, which is the head of state. The executive power is exercised by the Lengye Zungstong or Council of Ministers, headed by the Prime Minister. Their king is Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuk. Prime Minister of Bhutan, Lotai Tshering. Je Khenpo, highest religious official of Bhutan. Population in Bhutan. As of January 2020, the population of Bhutan estimated to be 827,830 people. This is an increase of 1.46% compared to the population last 2019. Culture and tradition in Bhutan. The predominant religion in Bhutan is Buddhism, followed by Hinduism. As a result, Bhutanese people is very much influenced of sacred Buddhist values. Bhutanese live by the religious values and respect their gods and deities a lot. Marriage between cousins is very common. Bhutanese people believe that death of a person means passing on one life to another, means they believe in reincarnation or rebirth. One of Bhutanese culture is when it comes to the birth of a child. No outsider is allowed to enter the house for 3 days after a baby is born. It is only after a purification ritual that the guests can enter. It's like binyag to us Filipino. You can't visit the child until it is baptized by their rituals. In Bhutan, Bhutanese people receive free education from the government. A heavy emphasis is placed on Buddhist teaching. Most schools have an English curriculum. So in Bhutan, you study free. It is all funded by the government of Bhutan or the king. In Bhutan, when it comes to inheritance, the eldest daughter rather than the eldest son, a man often moves into the house of his wife. It is opposite in the culture of Chinese that the inheritance will give to their eldest son or the son in the family. In Bhutan, the eldest daughter get the inheritance like land, house, or animals, etc. In Bhutan, Bhutanese are forbidden to marry foreigners. Homosexuality is also forbidden by law. Polygamy is legal in Bhutan. However, the practice is not very common. So, Bhutanese people only marry Bhutanese people. They cannot marry foreigners even though polygamy is legal in Bhutan. Bhutanese traditional dress. Bhutanese men wear go and Bhutanese women wear kira. Go is a heavy knee-length robe tied by a belt. Kira is an ankle-length dress over which a short jacket may be worn. When Bhutanese people go outside, they wear their traditional dress, not the casual dress like pants or t-shirts. The scarf they wear in their national dress also define their status in life. Yellow if you're an upper class citizen and white for the normal citizen in Bhutan. Next is their traditional food called emadachi. It is the national dish of Bhutan. It is eaten throughout the country and in almost every meal. It usually consists of spicy chilies and cheese. Bhutanese people love spicy food. I watched one video and they say that Bhutanese people can't live without spicy foods or they can't eat foods that is not spicy. Next is the traditional Buddhist horn or dangchen. It is used usually in the festivals in Bhutan. Next is archery, the national sports in Bhutan. Weather and climate in Bhutan. Spring is from March to May. Summer is from June to August. Autumn is from September to November. And winter is from December to February. Weather in Bhutan depends upon the altitude. In the northern parts of the country where mountains rises up to 7,000 meter, weather conditions are similar to Arctic. Southwards, closer to India, the weather is hot and humid in the summer and cool in the winter. The best time to visit Bhutan are spring, March to May, and autumn, late September to November. Bhutan is only composed of 20 cities and towns. The top 10 cities in Bhutan are The capital is Thimphu, Punto Sholing, Paro, Gelephu, Samdrup Jongkar, Wangdu Podrang, Punakha, Jakar, Nganglam, Samtse. I'm only going to discuss 5 cities in Bhutan because in Bhutan, you can't go to the cities that is not included in your planned tour. Also, not cities is open for tourists. There are only cities that cater tourists. First one, Thimphu, the capital of Bhutan. Buddha Dordenma is a home of 51 meters tall gold-plated statue of Buddha Dordenma, which is entirely made up of steel. Bhutan is a Buddhist country, that's why its major destinations is composed of the different temples in Bhutan. Next is Tashikodzong, also known as the Fortress of the Glorious Religion. It is found right on the banks of the Wangchu River. Next is Paro City. Tiger Nest Monastery. It is one of the most prominent Buddhist sites in Bhutan. It is located at the mountain ranges. You're going to hike up to the mountain to reach this temple. Next is the National Museum of Bhutan. It is one of the pride of the country. Flaunting arts and tradition, it has 6 floors, each of them narrating a unique tale from the past. Bhutan is also inclined with architecturals of their temples and buildings. Next is Trongsa, Kuenga Rabten Palace. This palace served as the winter home of the second king, but is now the National Commission for Cultural Affairs. Next is Mangdu Foot Trail. The entire trek covers a distance of about 14 kilometers and should approximately take about 2.5 hours. As I said, the destinations in Bhutan is all located in the mountains, so you have to trek and walk to get to that destination. Next is Jakar, Jambai Lakhang. It is considered to be one of the oldest and most sacred temple in Bhutan. It is also where a number of festivals are held. Next is Chakar Lakhang. It was originally made of iron and is hence also known as the Iron Palace. Next is Wangdu Podrang, Adha and Rukha villages. It is a beautiful place to get an insight into a Bhutanese farmer's life, where one could camp in a tent or better opt for a homestay at a farmer's house. The farmers are friendly and are happy to engage the visitors in daily activities. Next is the Jigme Singh Wangchuk National Park. It is one of the country's largest national park area-wise. Means of transportation in Bhutan. Bhutan lies in the Himalayas, belt bordered by 2 superpowers, India and China. It does not have access to sea as it is landlocked country, means they don't have seaports. Bhutan taxi and car rentals. The cost of transportation by car with an experienced driver or guide is included in the daily tourism rate, making renting a self-drive vehicle through a local travel agency unnecessary. Visitors are not present allowed to rent a car or drive in Bhutan because roads in Bhutan is usually in the mountains or at the top of the mountains or in the gilid of the mountains. So that experienced drivers only drive in Bhutan because if the tourists drive in Bhutan, the road is very not familiar to them, it might cause accident. Bhutan has 4 airports, among them 3 are domestic and 1 is international. The airports are in a location that it takes all the skills of an efficient pilot to land. The winds and bad weather may affect the landing and delay the flights. Paro International Airport is considered as the most dangerous airport in the world because it lies in the mountain ranges. The total flight duration from Manila, Philippines to Bhutan is 4 hours and 48 minutes. One fact, Bhutan has no railway service available, but there has been talks concerning about the railways for Bhutan. Top 5 must-buy souvenir in Bhutan. First is Bhutanese handmade paper. It is made up of all recycled materials. It is made up of flowers that grows in Bhutan. Next is hand-woven textiles, which comes from the idea of their national dress, Kira and Go. Next is handmade wooden bowls or dapa. Next is Bhutanese handicrafts. Next is Himalayan Z beads. And lastly, Bhutanese wooden carved mask. This wooden carved mask is also used in festivals in Bhutan. It depicts the dragon that is smiling, which is yung tao sa Bhutan is masaya. Next is tourist information. You need a visa to enter the country except for Indians, Bangladeshis, and Maldivians. All other nationalities requires a visa to enter Bhutan. If you would like to travel in Bhutan, you must hire a tour company. Unfortunately, it is impossible to travel Bhutan independently. You're not allowed to roam freely between cities, only with your tour guide. The visa in Bhutan costs $250 per day or more. It sounds expensive, and maybe it is for a budget traveler. But the visa includes everything in your tour. So basically, your visa is your tour. Your visa fee includes a 3-star hotel, private transportation, a guide, driver, and all entrance fees, tea, water, and meals. Only 3 airlines fly to Bhutan: Druk Air, Bhutan Airlines, and Buddha Air. Flights to Bhutan only depart from Nepal, India, Bangladesh, and Thailand. Malaysia and Indonesia are seasonal departure points. Don't be alarmed by Bhutan's phallic obsession. It is part of their culture, and you'll see pennies painted on the doorways. Spring and fall are considered often the best time to visit, especially if you're going hiking, as the skies are most clear and the temperature is not too cold or hot, across walls and even as giant sculptures or souvenirs. Hiking is possible up to 6 meters in elevation. Peaks under the altitude are considered trekking peaks. Anything above that is considered mountaineering, and it is forbidden as the mountains are sacred for the Bhutanese. In Bhutan, when you tour, take proper clothing. When visiting a zong or any monastery, make sure you are dressed properly. Otherwise, you won't be allowed in their interior spaces. Proper clothing consists of long pants and long sleeves or shirts. Jeans are acceptable as long as they cover your arms and legs. Closed shoes are also required. Bhutan currency is called ngultrum. Is the locally and officially accepted currency of Bhutan. In Bhutan, you can also use Indian rupee, but in India, you can't use Bhutanese money. 1 ngultrum is equivalent to 2.69 cents in the Philippines. Tourist information: more than 250,000 tourists visited the country last year, recording the highest number of tourist arrival as so far. This is as per Visitor Arrival Statistics Report of 2017. The report was released recently by the Tourism Council of Bhutan. However, this number is less than compared to the past years. More of them came to the country to witness Bhutan's unique culture and traditions. Kadrin Chaila!